Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. We have got a great show in store for you this week. Later in the program, we'll be joined by Camp Verde boys basketball coach Dan Wall. He'll speak about state playoffs, what the future of the big man position might look like, and what the plan for the offseason is. We'll then be joined by Bradshaw Mountain High School wrestling coach Bud Nollet. He'll break down the program's returning class, what a move up to Division II might mean, and speaks about the heavyweight class in general. And when we return from break, we'll be joined by Yavapai College Athletic Director Brad Clifford. He joins the show to speak about the baseball and softball clinics, how the new Esports program is going, and gives an update on athletics in general. All of that and a whole lot more coming up right here on Off the Bench. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Two things we can count on every year.
A new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm joined now by Yavapai College Athletic Director Brad Clifford. Brad, welcome back onto the show.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Very happy to have you. The Rough Riders spring season is kicked off. They've got softball, baseball, and esports going on right now at Yavapai College. First and foremost, Brad, I thought we'd talk about the softball team. They are playing very, very well. As of this interview, the softball team is coming off a 5-game winning streak, including 4 run rule wins. They've got 25 wins on the season, only 2 losses. They're continuing to play well. I mean, Brad, what can you say about the softball season so far?
It's been unreal. We're ranked number 3 in the country. We're run rolling people. I mean, we're putting a ton of runs on the board. We're hitting a lot of home runs. This is arguably the best team that Doug's had here at Yavapai College. And this goes back maybe even to Stacy Iverson years, back when she won 2 national championships. I think this team can really compete at the national level. Now, we've got our work cut out for us. As of today, we're playing at Central Arizona College, which they're ranked, I believe, number 10 or something in the recent poll. And they're a very good team. They've only lost 1 game on the season. So we're going to find out what we're really made of. We've been playing a lot of Division II schools. Obviously, we got Division I, Division II within our conference. Mm-hmm. And so we have to play those schools. But, you know, we went to Phoenix College, who's the number 1 team in the nation, Division II. And we split with them, and they're a really, really good team. They can compete at the Division I level easily. Then we have Eastern Arizona coming here on Saturday, which they cracked the top 20 this last week. So they're number 20 in the nation. So it's a good week. We're going to find out what we're about, but nonetheless, we're putting a lot of points on the board, hitting a lot of home runs, and we're real happy with Doug's team.
Baseball team's also playing well this season. 14 wins for them so far. Similar question, Brad. I mean, how you feeling about the baseball team out there?
You know, this is again, this is a good team. We have a great conference in baseball. We Central Arizona College, I think, is ranked number 2 in the nation right now, and they won it a year or so ago. We won it in 2016. Cochise College went in 2014 and really could have won it. They finished 3rd, I think. So this is a really good conference. And so for us to be 14-9, I think at this point, I think we don't want to be playing our best ball right now. Right. We want them to be playing mid on. And we're getting to that point where we're really starting to play really good baseball. We have Arizona Western College today as we speak, and they're ranked in the top 10, so it'll be a good challenge for us. And then towards the weekend, we have a couple non-conference games that we can kind of take a breather. Let's let a lot of kids play. and regroup ourselves for the rest of the remainder of the season, quite honestly, which is going to be all conference games.
Like I mentioned, Esports also kicking off at Yavapai College. They got their first season underway in February. They got their first games underway. Their first official season kicked off this year under Coach Kevin Lewis. Again, very similar in terms of how Esports actually, you know what, I'd love to ask, where'd you guys find Kevin Lewis? And, how did that Esports program kind of get started, and how you liking them so far?
This is so much fun. It was a couple of years ago, probably right before COVID. And Dr. Ryan and my boss, Rodney Jenkins, Vice President Jenkins, came to me. And the NJCAA had just announced, the NJCAA being the National Junior College Athletic Association, they had announced that they're going to start this esports league. And so I kind of looked at that email that I got. I was like, yeah, we're not going to do that. That's not what we want to do. And so I deleted it. But immediately I got a phone call from my boss, and Dr. Ryan said, we want to do this. Because it's an enrollment driver. Kids are playing esports. They're playing these games. And so let's do it. And I reluctantly said yes. And then I started researching it a little bit. And I'm like, this is exciting. You look at the world champ. Shoot, these kids, 14 years old, they're making millions of dollars doing this. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of got excited about it. So we put out a search for a coach, and he was local. Kevin Lewis is local, and he plays games, and he was a former soccer player in college. So he's very competitive, and he kind of got us started. We got a little, what we call an arena, which is just a video gaming room that we have over here. We're gonna build one over on the Verde side as well, on the Verde campus. We're gonna start that as well over here within the next year. And we're looking for, and I get inquiries every day, and I send them to Kevin, the coach. Hey, call this gal, call this guy. Get him on the team. Let's play. So right now, currently, we only have one player on the team, but we really just kicked it off in February. And so it's actually Mael's his name, and he plays soccer for us, and he's competing in FIFA right now. Video games. How fitting. He's pretty darn good at that, and I'm watching him. I don't have I can't do that. I can't even text, let alone play video games. And he's 3-1, and it's just exciting. It's fun to watch, and we're excited about it. So we're going to fill that room up, and we're going to have competitions coming in September again on both sides of the mountain, here in Prescott and over on the Verde Valley. And we're going to have an esports team, and we're going to be as competitive as we can.
Well, it's interesting. My first kind of introduction to esports was when I attended Grand Canyon University. They have a fantastic esports program there at GCU. And then from there, I'm starting to notice, especially coming here to the Verde Valley, there are a lot of schools that are starting those esports programs, more specifically over at Prescott in your neck of the woods. Coach Robin Bryce at Prescott High School, she's building that esports program there. Bradshaw's had some conversations about starting an esports program. Mingus Union, Camp Verde. You're right, Brad, we are seeing a lot more kids participating in esports. Now, I've got my worries about, people moving away from traditional sports and going to the esports, but I'm sure that's just the boomer in me getting a little upset about kids not playing basketball. But realistically, you're right. Esports is providing more opportunities for those kids who maybe physically can't get out on the field, but still love to compete and still love to get a chance to play. And even those kids who are athletes as well, you talk about having a soccer player on the esports team this year. Esports opens up a lot of opportunities for a lot of people, but the real reason we have Brad here today is we wanted to talk in a little bit a little long term about the softball baseball clinics that Yavapai College puts on for everybody of all ages here. They are hosting it at Mingus Union High School, so I don't want to say it's just directly for people here in the Verde Valley, but if you're looking to build your skills up, we're going to talk about that here just actually right now. So those of you who are listening to the interview now, those clinics ended on March 16th. So we will be speaking about them more towards next season or when the clinics will be hosted again. We'll talk to Brad about that. So I want to make that very clear. The clinics have already taken place as of this interview. So if you want more information, definitely go visit Yavapai College's athletic page or the college in general and talk to them about when those clinics may be happening again. So Brad, just first and foremost, let's just talk how those clinics get started. What are they, and what are kids, or I shouldn't even say kids, what are participants learning during that time?
Well, this was kind of I don't want to say it's a brainchild of mine, because we needed to get over and do some things on the Verde side, and so I think this gets us a chance we want to play games on the Verde side as well. So we played volleyball, 2 volleyball matches there this last fall there at Mingus Union High. And it was a pretty good success. You know, we had a pretty decent showing and for the first time that we had done it. So we're going to continue to do that. We want to play baseball and softball over there. In fact, the coaches want to too, because you guys are a little bit warmer over there than over here in February. And we just don't have the field right now where we're able to play on those. So we're gonna help with Mingus Union and help build their fields a little bit, get them a little bit more updated, both softball and baseball. So we're gonna play some games over there. But nonetheless, you know, during spring break, we've got so we play today, the clinics tomorrow, which you already talked about, is already gonna be done. And then we play on the weekend. And so our kids are just kind of sitting around and say, you know what, we need to go do a clinic. So let's go over there. And we did it 2 years ago. We had COVID, of course. We did it 2 years ago, and it was fairly well attended. And so I'm just hoping that we can get a lot of interest over there, you know, because we have a great campus over there. And we want them to follow us, and we want to be able to, you know, serve the Verde side as well. Yeah. And the kids come and we got players there. We got the coaches there. And it's going to be a mini camp, quite honestly. They're going to do exactly what they would do in the preseason with our players, you know, learning to throw, learning to catch, and, you know, learning to do a lot of things. It's only about an hour and a half or 2 hours, but we want anybody and everybody to come out to those. We're going to do them. We're going to try to do some in the summer as well, but we'll come back again in the spring and do that. We want to do some volleyball clinics. We want to do some soccer clinics in the fall as well over there. We'd like to play a game or two over there, maybe a scrimmage or something like that. We just got to have a field big enough for NJCAA purposes. Right. And then, but we want to play over there with soccer. We can obviously go over there and do some basketball clinics, which we got basketball starting up in the fall. And Jay and Gerard, our coaches, are planning on doing some stuff over there. So we're trying to do a lot more stuff on the Verde side, you know, to gain some interest, but also to serve the people of the Verde, because, hey, all it comes down to Yavapai College is the same on this side of the mountain and on that side of the mountain. So we just want to generate that interest and also act as a service to the community.
Again, we were speaking with Yavapai College Athletic Director Brad Clifford. We're talking more specifically about the baseball and softball clinics that take place on March 16th. Of course, those clinics are done by now, but like Brad said, there will be other opportunities a little bit later in the summer, potentially, definitely at the start of next spring. I love the push to try to bring essentially the Prescott side over here to Verde Valley. I mean, like you said, hosting the volleyball games inside of the Mingus Union Gymnasium. Like you mentioned, you got some plans to do some other stuff as well. So I want to ask, you know, just trying to keep that community connection, you know, how do these clinics help to grow that knowledge of Yavapai College and to grow that connection of, you know, you guys over on Prescott and us over here on the other side of Mingus Mountain?
Well, I think, you know, and this may be not where we want to go with this, but I think the best part about it is we're representing the college, right? Mm-hmm. And we want kids to know that there's this opportunity on both sides of the mountain to go to college. You know, I started at JUCO, right? And my daughter went.
So did I.
I mean, you started at JUCO. Mm-hmm. It's a great place to start if you're not ready to jump into the next level, you know, to ASU right away, where it's a mini city in itself, right? Mm-hmm. Or NAU or something like that. So I think it's an extension of the college, getting us known out there and saying, hey, we do sports here, we do esports here, we do all kinds of stuff here, and you can get your credits at a much cheaper price than you can going to ASU. And it's hometown. You can live at home and do it. You can work and do that. I had to work my way through college, right? And I remember I played, yeah, right. I played basketball at Yavapai College for a year, but I was also cleaning parking lots at 3:00 in the morning while I was doing it. But nonetheless, I think that's what we want out of this, is to gain exposure to Yavapai College. Now, obviously, that it benefits Yavapai College athletics because we want you to come and watch us play. Of course, you know, we want us to be known because we're a pretty good department, and we have some fun and we win and etc. But I think the most important part is we want to be an extension of Yavapai College. We want to be ambassadors of Yavapai College and say, hey, we've got this program here. We've got this opportunity for kids to stay here and go to school. I mean, you can do construction. You guys got a winery over there. You can learn how to make wine. You know, we got agriculture on this side of the mountain. We got a great, unbelievable nursing program. I mean, we've got a lot of things here that I think maybe we're unknown. But I think if we can do our little part and say, hey, Yavapai College is here, then that's what we want to do.
Yeah, and then also, of course, I definitely agree. It's obviously an opportunity for kids to get a glimpse into what Yavapai College offers through these small clinics that, just like you said, they're just about an hour or two long. But it provides also, an opportunity for kids to learn and grow and love the sport of baseball and softball. I mean, like you said, you already got plans to grow these clinics. You've already seen success with them. So yes, while of course there is that marketing aspect of them as well, there's also really some great things going on with Yavapai College at Yavapai College. And Brad, we are out of time. I do want to thank you very much for coming on the show to give us an update on the baseball team, the softball team, and the newly crowned esports team as well. I wish you nothing but the best of luck for the rest of the season going forward. I'm sure we'll touch base in the summertime to talk about when the next clinics might be coming up. But again, if you want more information about Yavapai College and some of the stuff that they're doing, go visit Yavapai College's website, yc.edu. And with that, Brad Clifford, thank you again for coming on the show.
My pleasure, and thanks for having me. And just, you can see all our sports camps, and we'll put the clinics on that www.goroughriders.com. So yeah, go to that page and you'll know everything about it. Thank you so much.
Of course. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Camp Verde boys basketball coach Dan Wall right here on Off the Bench. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm joined now by Camp Verde High School boys basketball coach Dan Wall. Coach Wall, welcome onto the program.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's always great to be with you.
Well, we're always happy to have you, Coach. The Cowboys finished their regular season with a 17-1 overall record, 9-1 in the region, resulting in a region title for the Cowboys this season and a playoff appearance going in as the number 3 team in the state. Coach, with the playoffs included, how'd you feel the season went?
Well, when you don't get to win your last game, there's obviously some stinging disappointment that comes with that. But now that we've had a chance just to kind of back up a little bit and look at the whole body of work, I think we're extremely proud of our kids, what they accomplished this year, and just all the experiences that led up to the end.
Coach, can you take us through that final game against Holbrook? I got a chance to see that game, but I'm just curious, it was a fun game. It was definitely a tough one for you guys, but I kept going back and forth for a lot of the game. I'm just curious, what was your assessment of your team's performance in that final game of the playoffs? I know it didn't go your way.
Yeah. Some really good things. To start with the positives, Chino had just an amazing game. I think he ended up with 27 points. And he hit big shot after big shot to keep us relevant. When we were down, he sparked the comeback by hitting 2 long, deep threes. The game turned a little bit when our big guy Cheat fouled out with about 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Credit to Holbrook. Their guards played great. They rebounded the ball well. They made big shots when they needed to. Overall, in that environment, it was just a really fun atmosphere to play the game. And I think now that, like I said, the sting of the loss has faded a little bit, at least, I think the kids can really start to think about those positive things that happened throughout the course of the game.
Well, Coach, I'm sorry to open up that wound for you, but it was like you said, it was a great game, really. The atmosphere at the Toyota Finlay Center was very fun. It's the first playoff game I got to cover for Yavapai Broadcasting, hopefully not the last for Camp Verde. But Coach, you talk about Cheeto Herrera. He's going into his senior year next year. We'll talk about the rest of your starters, but I want to specifically target in on Cheeto just because I have a follow-up question. But Cheeto was able to average 15 points a game, 9 rebounds per game for you this season. What are your plans for him going forward in his development in his final season with the team?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And the improvement we saw with him from last year to this year was just incredible, and I got all kinds of comments, from coaches around the state that just saw the improvement in that young man, which has been exciting. And I think he's poised to take another big step next year. He's really excited about being in the gym. He's already been in the gym almost every day since we lost that game. And, I think looking forward with him, we're really going to work on his athleticism and quickness. And obviously he's already a force in the low post, which is different these days. Not a lot of those type of players exist anymore. And so I think, our goal is to round him out a little bit too, and work on his jump shot, work on his handles, and try to get him more touches, all over the floor and not maybe just in the post, kind of like what his role was this year.
Well, Coach, you talk about Cheeto, obviously, working more in that inside post position that not necessarily is moved away in basketball, but we're starting to see the center and forward positions start to blend, where you're getting a lot of forwards playing that center position, more so at the college and professional level. Of course, in high school, you got kids of all kinds of sizes. So I'm curious with Cheeto, obviously you're one of at least the few that I can think of that really utilizes the big man position. Cheeto is not running up and down the floor with the ball and passing. He is getting the ball in the inside post. So I want to ask, do you think that high school basketball is starting to move more away from that center position and become more of that hybrid 3-4 kind of forward combination?
Yeah, I mean, it's been moving that direction, and usually high school mirrors what's going on at the pro and college level, just, 3-4 years behind it. And so, like you said, you're getting a lot of those stretch 4 guys. I mean, you got LeBron playing the 5 for the Lakers right now, and Jokic for the Nuggets, where they do a lot of stuff where they're handling the ball out top. And you do see a lot more high school teams going to that. What we always say we love about college or high school basketball is you just get what you get. So you get your personnel in, and you've got to try to figure out, hey, how do we make this group of kids competitive, based on the skill set, the size. And this is the first time, in 10 years of doing this at the high school level that we've really had a quality big guy who we can go to consistently, which has been really fun. So we've had to change a few things we do to try to be more intentional to get him the ball there. And now moving forward for us, we lose all of our guards who were playing big minutes this year. And we've got some young kids coming up who are going to step in. But, how do we kind of morph cheat, a little closer to where the game's going is kind of going to be our challenge as we move forward.
Well, I mean, Coach, more specifically, of course, you don't even have to go that far back to where your offense had a little bit of a different scheme. I mean, with Jason Collier, a lot of your offense was running through that guard where Collier was kind of the it man, and everyone was targeting him, and he was able to facilitate the ball to open players. You go into the following season, you bring in Chino Salasaria, who's seeing a lot more time at the starting position, not necessarily working the ball just to him. You've got Cheeto as well on the team last season. And then this past season, you're working more into that big man with Cheeto Herrera and the outside game of Chino Salasaria. So, I want to ask, how do you kind of keep up with those trends? Again, I know you're not necessarily picking and choosing who comes into your program, but in those years where you don't have a Cheeto Herrera, but you have a Jason Collier, how do you assess and sort of, build that offense around who you have? And even more so, how do you fit your returners into that scheme as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think all high school coaches are probably in the same boat. And we just did this, we sit down and we kind of list out, okay, who are we probably going to have next year? And that's always up in the air because you never know, with everything going on in life, if you really will have all those guys. And you just got to try to figure out, okay, what's a scheme that best fits our personnel? And so, I think when guys get into coaching, like I said, I think that's one of the most enjoyable pieces to it is the strategizing of, okay, how do we adjust what worked so great last year? We can't run the same stuff again because we got different kids, and we got to facilitate to their strengths and all that stuff. I will say having a big kid inside is such a difference maker for the guards, just because as a kid like Chi, he just involves so much pressure being applied to him. And so, if you can throw that ball inside out, that's your highest percentage shot on the court is that inside out 3, and I think Devin and Christoph were great recipients of that, as well as Chino getting in the paint. So it's just fun to have a big guy. Like I said, we kind of been salivating about this for the last year because we haven't had the opportunity to coach a kid like Cheat. So it's been really a good time.
Well, just real quick, Coach, I do want to touch upon last season. You guys finished 11-7 during that very weird 2020, 2021 year where we're going in and out of COVID restrictions, but you guys really turned it around this year, 17-1. Kind of more picking up for where you left off in 2019 to 2020, as opposed to, last season with all the chaos. But I want to ask, what's kind of set this team apart this season from the team last season, outside of course, all the COVID issues?
Yeah, well, I look at it a little bit differently. I was extremely pleased with our year last year. We knew losing Jason, who was, 27 points a game, like you mentioned earlier, we ran literally everything through him, and so to kind of revamp what we were doing, we knew it was going to take these kids a little bit of time. I thought, played in the toughest region in the 3A last year because you had Page who came down. Fountain Hills was the Final 14. Northwest Christian upset the number 2 seed in playoffs. I mean, so every night you're walking into an absolute grinded out slugfest, and with the lack of experience the kids had, we were just so pleased with how hard they competed. And what an 11-7 record doesn't tell you is I think there were 6 of those games that were one possession games, where the goal of last year was, man, we got to learn how to win these close games, because we were always in it down to the end. And then something would happen. We miss a free throw, or we maybe turn it over in a tough, and so that was kind of our deal last year. Is we got to find a way to win these games, and it was really fun to see this group in the summertime, in the fall, really start to change some of that and go in with confidence, like, hey, it's a one possession game. There's no way we're losing this game, and that happened time and again throughout the spring and the fall. And I was hoping that would be the case at that last game of the season. But up until that point, man, the kids did such a great job battling and fighting through the adversity and finishing those close games. Well,
Coach, it only took you 2 years to secure a region title in the new 3A division you guys are in. So I want to ask, going now into year 3, now going into year 2, technically, I guess, going into that division or into that region, how you feeling about that region? I know you said it was tough. I get that. I'm just curious, are you feeling a little more comfortable now that you gotten a chance to get that region title out of the way?
Well, that was really fun this year and a huge bonus, I will say our region is going to get a lot tougher next year because Scottsdale Christian moves into the 3A and they've gotten placed into our region. So you're looking at the teams we have, Fountain Hills is obviously going to bring back a lot. Northwest is always going to be tough. Coach does an incredible job with his squad down there. And then you throw in, the 2A state champs in there as well. That's going to be an absolute gauntlet next year. And with us, quite honestly, losing all the kids who play big minutes for us, except for Cheat, we'll just, we've got to be set an expectation and just really work to build this group up. That being said, we do have some really good young players coming up. So we're really excited to work with them and see the improvements and, where they can go. So we're speaking with Camp Verde boys basketball coach Dan Wall. The Cowboys able to make a playoff appearance, earn themselves a region title this season, finishing 17-1 overall, 9-1 in that 3A region they are in. Coach, you talk about your seniors moving out, some new guys coming in. Let's just hit them both. What can you say about this senior class? I know it's a big offensive senior class for you. Chino Salasaria, part of that group. But who are you looking forward to keeping back besides Chito Herrera? Yeah, so the other 2 kids on our bench at the varsity level was Caleb Bahi and Christian Santabria. And those kids, they floated between the JV and the varsity, so they got basically all their minutes at the JV level last year. But Caleb, he's long, he can shoot it a little bit. We're working on the quickness, athleticism piece, but he's another one who's been in the gym every day since the season's been over, really trying to work hard and get better. So we'll look for some really great stuff from him. And then Christian, he's a 3-sport athlete, great football player. He's running track right now and just tearing it up. And he's just a competitor. And so I think we're going to see some great stuff from him on the court as well. And then we go down to, some of the other guys at the JV level. You've got Jordan Williams, who is our starting point guard at the JV level, who we're looking forward to hopping in and doing some things this year. And another kid named Chris Ogle, who's got a lot of athletic ability. So there's some pieces there, it'll just be back to, hey, let's figure out how we're going to compete and how to put this thing together, which that's a lot of the fun of the coaching.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that coaching, Coach. Obviously, you're not just handling varsity and JV. You got a great staff of coaches around you. What can you say about that lower level staff and how they've been key in sort of beginning that development for those guys before they get up to the varsity level with you?
Yeah, well, I got to start off with Jeff Luetta. He's the assistant coach who's been here for 5 years now, and he is an incredible addition to our group. And I'll tell you, I mean, we don't have the success we have, these last bunch of years without him. He's dynamic personality. Really, kids respond great to him. Very good with individual skill work and in-practice stuff. Just an incredible asset to our program. And so that's been huge for us. Also, Javier Perez and Thomas Herrera have started coaching the middle school group and did a terrific job with our 8th grade kids this last year. So we're really looking forward to some of those 8th grade kids coming up. Reyes Herrera is another one who's played for us, and now he's in the mix as a coach, and he really helps out on the recruiting side of things. He loves talking with the college coaches. And so he's been working really hard with Chino and with Devin to try to get them placed into some positions after high school. So overall, I mean, we're so blessed to have the guys we have working with our young men. It's a great, fun group of coaches for me to work with, and they do an incredible job with our kids.
Oh, that's great. You got a former player on the staff helping these guys get to that next level. Is it a little weird having a former player on the staff at this point, Coach?
That is one of my favorite things about it.
That's good.
I love being able. So he's a former player, and then Javier Perez and Thomas Herrera, they all three played together. And I don't think there's anything more rewarding as a coach than to see some of your kids who went through the program say they want to come back and give to these young kids. I mean, that really makes my heart full. And that's kind of what it's all about, is developing these kids into young men and then seeing how they give back to their communities. And so, yeah, I couldn't be any happier with who we have helping our kids out.
Again, we're speaking with Camp Verde High School boys basketball coach Dan Wall. Coach, obviously the season's done now. What's the plan for the off season?
Yeah, well, like I mentioned, we lose a lot of kids, so we gotta get a lot of reps in and get better. And so, right now we do a couple of morning workouts a week before school, and I always have a heart for these kids to play multiple sports. And so, we don't want to do anything that takes away from the spring sports, the baseball and the track right now. And so we just try to work around it and get the kids in the gym whenever we can. Sure, we'll do some open gyms and, send them to a couple of tournaments when they have some time in the spring here. And then, as you know, June is when summer ball really hits hard for the high school scene. And right. So we'll be hosting a Monday night league this year at Camp Verde with a bunch of the local schools who come down and play. And then we usually will go out to a tournament each weekend in June. And so usually we get about 30 games or so in that month, which will be very needed this year to really get some experience and get these kids some reps at the varsity level.
I want to ask, Coach, has your offseason plan changed at all throughout the years? Do you do something more that you didn't do before? Or how have you sort of adjusted that throughout the years?
Yeah, I think the shell of it is pretty similar from year to year. But I think where we really try to be intentional is what type of teams we try to play. Like this last year, we knew, we're going to have a good chance to compete in the 3A. So we want to really push these kids and put them in tough spots. So we went down to Grand Canyon where, there's a lot of 5A schools, and we're able to play the Pinnacles and Moon Valleys and schools like that who are really going to push us and force us to get better. And then you may have some years where it's like, hey, we're just kind of emerging. We need to get this group some confidence. Right. So let's find some people who are going to be about our speed and just see if we can compete with them a little bit, So I think that's kind of the spot where you really try to pick and choose and be intentional with how you're setting that up.
He is Camp Verde boys basketball coach Dan Wall. Coach Wall, thank you very much for coming on the show and talking about the program. I wish you nothing but the best of luck, and I look forward to catching up during the off season to talk about some of those tournaments that you guys are participating in.
Yeah, Phil, thanks so much for covering us, man. We sure appreciate it, and always love chatting with you, man. It's always a blast.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Bradshaw Mountain Wrestling coach Bud Nollet right here on Off the Bench. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year.
A new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt tax office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm joined now by a familiar face of the program. He is Bradshaw Mountain High School wrestling coach Bud Nollet. Coach Nollet, welcome on to the show.
Hi, Philip.
Hey, Coach. We're happy to have you. First and foremost, congratulations on finishing the season. The Bears finished their year finishing 7th in state with a record of 82. Coach, just in general, how were the state playoffs and how was the season in general?
Good. It was a great season. It was nice. We were hoping to finish top 5 in the state or better, but 7th overall, we were pretty happy with it. We only sent 6 guys total to state, which was shy of our goal. But all things considered, we had a good finish, a good season, and we were happy.
Coach, you graduated some heavy hitters this season in terms of your seniors. Caleb Hill, Michael Kelly, Tyler Dilcher, just to name a couple of the guys you're going to be losing after this year. I just want to ask, what can you say about the senior class, their contributions this season, what they meant to the program, and just in general? You get a lot of guys who are coming off the football field and going straight onto the wrestling mat. So, just in general, how much did these guys, not just the football players, but of course your year-round wrestlers, how much those seniors really kind of benefit the team this year?
Huge. Our seniors made a huge impact on the team, and not just in terms of how they performed or how they finished, but just overall leadership. Most of those guys you mentioned did play football. 2 more that you mentioned, Peyton Hines and Nick Foshi. Unfortunately, Nick wasn't able to play football, but our seniors played a huge role. We actually have 9 seniors graduating total, but of the 9, 5 wrestled varsity. As you know, Nick Foshi was out most of the season, so 4 or 5 graduating seniors. That's a huge percentage of our roster. So, we'll definitely feel it next year. I think next year we're going to be pretty light on our seniors. We'll still be pretty competitive, but we're going to feel it. We're going to miss those guys. A lot of those seniors I've known for a long time, since they were, middle school or even younger. So, it's one of those things you love to see them graduate, and we had a great season with them. But we're definitely, it affects us in terms of, you're sad to see him go. You're happy to see him go. It's one of those mixed emotions, but yeah, those guys played a huge role in terms of how we performed and just leadership skills and setting the pace, so we're going to miss those guys definitely.
Coach, you talk about that returning group of juniors now going to be seniors. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Asher King is one of those guys who are included in some of the returners you're going to be getting back for that very small senior class. Like you said, only a handful of seniors next season. But, you get a guy like Asher King back, Coach. How are you looking to develop those now seniors into next season? What do you think that little group of guys can accomplish?
Well, Asher's one of those kids where he works super hard in the off season and he sets his goals real high. So, we're hoping to have some good results with him next year. He himself is hoping to have some good results. So again, he's one of those kids where we don't have to tell him what needs to be done, because he just goes out there and gets it done. He's a self-motivator. But we have another junior. He wrestled varsity with us all year, Casey Larkham. He didn't quite make it to state, but those really the only 2 juniors / seniors we're going to have coming back next year. But we have a lot of sophomores that wrestled real well for us this year, so they'll be juniors next year. So even though we're going to be light on our seniors, we'll have a big junior class, as well as, we had a lot of freshmen wrestling tough this year too, so they'll all be sophomores. So, as the program matures and gets stronger and stronger, we're hoping to have, 10, 15 guys at every grade level, so every year, we're strong. But, we're going to do a lot of wrestling in the off season, and one of the things we always look forward to are weekend wars down there in Cottonwood, Mingus Union High School. So just a lot of off-season wrestling and keep it light and keep it fun. And we try to get as many matches in the off-season as possible, just for mat time, not necessarily winning or losing, just getting that mat time and staying loose. And, it's all about repetition and experience. So.
Are you specifically looking for any kind of tournaments that are going to be happening during the offseason, Coach? Are there any tournaments you're excited to be a part of? Any that you're hoping to get into, maybe not this offseason, but next offseason? Just in general, maybe let's just talk about the offseason, Coach. I mean, what's specifically the plan outside of, getting these guys some more mat time?
Well, I don't want to give away any of our trade secrets, but
I'll tell you, I promise you, Coach McKean or anybody ain't standing behind me, Coach. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, it's all good. And it's funny, those guys, they all know. And it's funny because we see them all summer long, all in the off season, so every time we see each other in the off season, we just kind of laugh and smile and, because they know what it's all about and we do too. So, but no, really, specifically, there's no like real targets that we look forward to tournaments. It's mostly just we want the variety. We love weekend wars just because we can get 10 or 12 matches in. We love the national tournaments because then we get exposed to high-end competition. We always look forward to wrestling down in Phoenix and Tucson just to get a variety. And it's like the good, the bad, and the ugly. We want these guys to have a lot of matches. We like for them to win a lot. To keep them motivated, but then we also want them to get their butts kicked too, just so they can get, a variety of matches and put in different positions. And then that way, when it comes to the season, there's less pressure just because they've been there and done that.
Right.
So really it's a matter of just the exposure, total exposure. And there's not any specific tournaments that we look forward to. It's rather just the amount of tournaments and then just getting them the variety of some easy matches, middle matches, and then of course those tough matches.
Yeah, Coach Nollet, keeping things close to the chest. I like that a little bit.
Yeah,
got to make sure that even though we're good, we got to make sure we keep some of the secrets kept up there. But again, we're speaking with Bradshaw Mountain Wrestling coach Bud Nollet. Coach, you talk about that returning class of now juniors and sophomores. They're sophomores and freshmen this season. You get a big class of kids back. Are there any that you're excited to return back next season? You're setting yourself up for a huge junior class, not next year, but the year after. So what do you think that this group can accomplish? Very talented group of freshmen and sophomores coming into the program this past off season.
Well, yeah, we have a lot of potential. It's funny because the freshman class this year, we don't really have any of those kids that just walk in and 4-time state champs. A lot of our guys are, especially our freshmen, they just didn't have the experience. So this was really their first year just getting exposure to varsity. I think we had 5 freshmen this year, so they paid their dues, which is good. That's what you want, just getting them seasoned. But a sophomore this year going into next year, we have Dion Zamora, who well, and he finished 6th this year at state. So we're looking forward to him next year, seeing what he can do. And he had a real tough weight class. Brody Townsend, he ended up winning that tournament at 106, but finishing 6th at 106 really didn't do it justice because that was just a tough weight class all the way through. So for him to finish 6th, he actually won sectionals, and then he wrestled tough and finished 6th. So, we're hoping he's got a lot of promise, a lot of potential going into these next 2 years. And then we have a lot of other sophomores who'll be juniors next year, that did well at sectionals. But because of our seniors, we were so senior heavy, a lot of them just couldn't break the lineup. Right. So I think there'll be some eyes open next year, like, wow, where'd these guys come from? Just because the talent is there. They just, when you have that many seniors, blocking the spots, and that's good. That's a good problem to have, but Caden Martinez is tough. He's coming back next year. He'll be a junior. Gabriel Ricketts wrestled varsity 190. He's coming back next year. Jordan Kelly, and his brother won state this year at 215, Michael Kelly. But Jordan, he'll be coming. He should be breaking the lineup next year. He'll be a junior. And he's been junior varsity these last 2 years, just again, because the lineup's been so tough. But we have, and that's our sophomores. And then, like I said, we have about 5 or 6 freshmen who will be sophomores. who wrestled varsity for us this year, they got nice and seasoned this year. So even though we're going to be light on our seniors next year, we should be pretty deep with our sophomores and juniors this year. So, we're excited. AIA announced they're going to bump us up to Division II next year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that'll be a good mix-up, and we're actually looking forward to it. We're not, we're not scared or anything like that. We're actually excited. It'll be a good opportunity to show Division II what we can do, and so we're just looking forward to the opportunity.
Well, Coach, since you've taken over and I've gotten a chance to see your program wrestle now for the past 2 seasons, you're entering season 3 next year. I've spoken with a few coaches around Division III, Coach McKean, Coach Moran of Coconino Wrestling, Coach McKean, of course, of Mingus. And I've said it, Coach, I feel like your program is definitely up and coming. I mean, and it may be up and coming at this point is not necessarily the correct word to use because you guys have arrived. You are here. But seriously, you talk about, surprising a lot of people next season. You're losing a big class of seniors, but you're welcoming in even more talented freshmen and sophomores from this past offseason who are now going to be in their 2nd or 3rd years with the program. I mean, seriously, and you guys now moving up to Division II. I mean, you guys are really putting Bradshaw on the map in terms of wrestling. And I don't want to take anything away from any other programs here in the state of Arizona because we got some fantastic wrestling programs. I got a chance to talk to a lot of coaches on this show. And my sentiments and my kind words still remain. I think wrestling here in Arizona, especially in Northern Arizona, is something to definitely check out. But Coach Nollet, genuinely, I really do feel like your program is one of the ones that in a couple of years or even next season potentially really might be contending for a state title every single year. You and Coconino, I share the same sentiments with them. I share the same sentiments with Mingus, excuse me. But seriously, we've got really good wrestling up here, and Bradshaw is just one of the many great programs here. But I genuinely do feel, Coach, that you guys are on that upswing. But I want to ask you. You talked about sort of getting these guys coming in. You're welcoming in a new crop of freshmen this past off season. Your freshmen are getting older now. You talk about those guys coming in. You're not going to get a state wrestler straight off the bat. Coming into the program, no one is. I mean, you get 1 or 2 of them every blue moon. And so I want to ask, when you do get these freshmen and sophomores in, obviously these kids have been wrestling for a while. It's a similar question I've asked before, but not to you, but I'm curious, how experienced are these guys coming into your program? Even if they're technically, at the high school level, they're inexperienced, but a lot of these kids have been wrestling for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, thank you for those kind words. And, we're just glad to be hanging with those guys that you mentioned, Coach Moran and McKean and Coach Schmieder. Those guys, we look up to those guys. Coach Foster out, he's moving on, but those guys, just to be able to hang with them, just to make it a close duel, win or lose, is an honor for us. Just to be able to hang with those guys. We've always known the potential that Prescott Valley and Bradshaw has had. So it's just nice to see these guys kind of go to the next level, and they deserve it, and we're just happy for them. But yes, regarding the incoming freshmen and just the young talent, we see that a lot where kids, they might be state champions when they're 6 or 7 years old, but by the time you get to high school, that all that changes. The physical maturity aspect of it, and just the pressure of high school, with the grades and the academics, and then you have sectionals and state. It's a long season. It's a lot of matches. Most of our guys got between 40 and 50 matches this year. So, keeping everybody healthy and happy and, wrestling at their best, it's a challenge. We do have, some incoming freshmen this year. Some of them have talent. Some of them have been around the block, but most of them haven't. So when they get to the high school, it's a whole new experience. So we just treat them all the same, and just put them in a room and have everyone wrestle their toughest. A lot of freshmen can't break the lineup. If they can, great, and if they can't, that's great too. We just try to push everybody as hard as we can, and we have our JV and freshman guys try to push our varsity guys as hard as possible, just to to keep it moving. So we're excited to see what the future holds, and just keep the numbers up and just keep working hard. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of any incoming freshmen like all-stars, like you said, but rather we have 10, 12 guys who are just hard workers and show a lot of promise, and they have a lot of talent. And we're blessed because we have great middle school coaches, and club coaches who are just as dedicated or more, than I am or that we are at the high school. So, we're blessed. We have a good thing going here, and we just try to, keep a hold of the ball and not fumble it and just keep it going.
Yeah, I do have to correct myself real quick, though. I said Coach Moran. I did mean Coach Schmieder. Of course, Coach Schmieder's the wrestling coach for Coco, and Coach Moran is the basketball coach for Coconino. The two mics I got them mixed up for those of you who are screaming at your phones and the radio for me saying the wrong name. But we are speaking with Bradshaw Mountain Wrestling coach Bud Nollet. The Bears finished their season number 7 in the state at the state tournament. Coach, you're entering year 3. I just want to ask, I got this assessment from you last year as you kind of finished that really hectic first year. So how are you feeling going into year 3? I mean, obviously you guys are going to be moving divisions next season, so that'll present some challenges, which we'll talk about in the off season when we reconnect again. You'll be welcoming in some new kids. But I want to ask, just in general, how are you feeling about year 3 and what plans do you have to continue the growth of the program?
Yeah, it's funny you ask, because last year was my first year, but with COVID, we didn't have any tournaments all year. We had 12 duels and then sectionals and state. So, I mean, we did have 2 tournaments, but again, it was just sectionals and state. So last year compared to this year, we're not, they weren't alike at all. So this year was really my first regular season, pre-COVID or post-COVID rather. So every year has different challenges. We're looking forward to next year, year 3, just because, we have our process down. Us coaches, we've been the same coaches, our coaching staff last year and this year. So,
right.
We're figuring each other out. So next year, again, it should be real similar to this year. Every year has different challenges and obstacles. But really, we're just hoping to keep moving in that right direction, keep working hard. If anything, we'd like to do better and work harder. But it's funny because you never really know the challenges that each year is gonna bring. So We're just hoping to roll with the punches, and it'll be my 3rd year next year. So I'm still learning as a coach and developing my style, and you gotta perform. You want the wrestlers to wrestle their best, but of course, you have the school district and you got to keep the athletic director happy, and you got all the parents and the grades and the girlfriends, so every challenge, it's fun. It's a good learning curve, but we really enjoy it, and we have a good coaching staff, and our AD, she really backs us up. So we're blessed with that. And, the school district is great, and Bradshaw Mountain High School in general is a real good school. So we just have a good thing going here, and we're glad to be a part of the whole process. And we get a lot of support, from the principal and the superintendent and our athletic director. So, it's really a good program to be a part of, and we're looking forward to year 3 and just to keep learning and getting better, and just keep setting our goals high and just keep moving in that direction.
Well, I definitely big shout out to Clorinda Weatherwax, the athletic director over at Bradshaw. She is she's great, friend of the show. She's been on the show a few times, and her and Missy Townsend over at Prescott, 2 fantastic athletic directors in the Prescott area. But Coach, I got one last question for you. It's a little bit of a weird one. I asked a similar question to Dan Wall of Camp Verde High School regarding the big man position in basketball. Obviously, you guys had Peyton Hines this past season as your heavyweight wrestler. I got the chance to see Avery Hines, Mingus Union's big heavyweight wrestler, go up against each other when you guys came down to Mingus. But I want to ask, obviously in basketball, we're seeing the big man position start to move away a little bit. And a lot of guys are standing more closer to the 3-point line. They're a little more slender. You're getting a little less of those prototypical centers. I'm just curious, are you seeing a similar trend begin at the heavyweight level? And if not, are there any other weight classes that might be a little lacking in bodies right now?
That is an interesting question. To answer your question, no. It's funny because our heavyweight, in heavyweights is a funny division, because some of the heavyweights, might be at the peak, at 285 and might have that extra body fat. And then some heavyweights are more leaner and meaner, but they still fall in that heavyweight category. when it comes to that, it really just depends on your style of wrestling. I noticed with our heavyweight, when it came to like Heinz from Mingus, he actually wrestled better with the bigger guys, the heavier guys, versus the smaller, slender, more athletic, stronger ones. I mean, they're all strong. But it just depends on your style of wrestling and your body style. But wrestling's funny with us. Like this year, we were real heavy on the top, anywhere from 165 and up. We were pretty solid. We were missing kind of the lighter weights, but a lot of our freshmen, sophomores, we have a lot of lighter weights and not as many bigger guys. So unlike basketball or unlike football, wrestling's really unique because every weight class is just as important. From 106 all the way up to 285. So we just try to fill every weight class and then have them do their best. But it's just funny, really, with wrestling, we find it's not so much the weight classes that we're missing, but rather just the numbers. You might have like this year, we only have 2 juniors, but we have 20 freshmen. Or, we're graduating 9 seniors, and then our sophomore class, we might only have 10, so it's not necessarily for us the sizes or the weight classes so much as overall numbers. So our goal is just to try to produce 10 or 15 solid guys in each grade level, and then fill the gaps in the weight classes as we go. But yeah, that's an interesting observation. I do see in football a lot of times the guys seem to be getting bigger, stronger, and faster. That guy just ran that 40 and.
For the Georgia offensive lineman. Yes.
340 pounds.
Yes.
But wrestling's really unique because, the 106 pound weight class, 113 pounds they're just as important as, those bigger guys. So, we just try to treat everyone equally. We motivate them and push them just as hard, no matter their size or body style, so it's a really unique sport, and that's why we love it.
He is Bradshaw Mountain Wrestling coach Bud Nollet. Coach Nollet, congratulations on finishing year 2. We look forward to catching up with you at the start of year 3 and years 4, 5, 6, 20, 30, 70, whatever it may be. But Coach, thank you again for coming on and taking the time to talk about your program.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That's going to do it for this episode of Off the Bench. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo, wishing you a great rest of your week. We'll see you again next time.